Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Fins Nation. I'm your host, Louis Sung, and today we're going to be talking with my good friend, Ron Canniff, who is also the co-host on the Pulse of Fins Nation. Ron, how are you today?
I'm great. And I promise I won't say anything about Tua being Batman.
No? It's for anybody, I'll go ahead and I'll say this part. We do this show, we record it, and there was just some weird stuff that was going on. We got into a discussion about who's the best Batman, and by the way, the answer is Kevin Conroy, and nobody at me in the comments.
All right.
Rest in peace, good sir. But yes, Kevin Conroy is the true Batman. We also talked about what kind of a superhero, or so maybe even would Tua even be a superhero? When I talk about snipers, that's usually it's like a supervillain type thing, because snipers are used for assassinations and stuff like that. Unless you want to talk about Tua being an assassin, and he
That's
just absolutely
right.
he
Tua
murders other
assassin.
NFL teams. Tua, just like he always finds the open guy, and he just perfect bullseye every single time. So that's
right.
Really,
I like it.
So Tua would be the dead shot of the DC Dolphins universe.
Yeah, if he was in Marvel, he would be Hawkeye.
Hawkeye's a hero, though, so maybe it should be Marvel instead.
Yeah,
although I've always been a DC person. I've never been able to get
you're
into
a
Marvel.
DC dude.
I like my Superman. I like my Batman. I like my Green Lantern. Jean Jones. Those are my guys. But anyway, so that's not what we're here to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. What we're going to be talking about today is some of the offensive line struggles. So I know I talked briefly about this in last night's show, simply because we talked about whether it was more important that the Dolphins signed Connor Williams or if they signed Dalvin Cook. Ron, I already know what your answer would be. So
well, Connor Williams is already signed. You mean is it more important for them to extend? Extend. He's signed. We don't need to re-sign. You mean
because maybe the concern is that Connor Williams will not only hold out of minicamp, he'll also hold out of training camp and just not show up to games at all.
It's going to work. I'm telling you, it's going to work itself out. Connor Williams isn't going to do this. I think they'll either figure out an extension or he's going to show up, one or the other. And sometimes GMs will make promises to say, hey, I'll do this for you here, and then next year we'll do that. We've seen Greer do that specifically with X, and he kept that promise. So he's shown that when he says that, he will keep that promise. They could do something like that with Connor Williams. Say, look, we can't give you the extension we're looking for, but how about we do this? And then next year we'll do that. And I know you'd think, wow, why would they fall for that? Well, you kind of, when you say that, you kind of have to do it as a GM. But like I said, Greer has done that before and followed through on it. So it's going to work. I'm telling you, it's going to work out, man. Everybody, all the players are excited for this season. Connor Williams knows how important he is to this team. It's going to work. I'm so not worried about it.
Well, I'll give my thoughts in just a minute, but before we get too much further into it, just want to go ahead and mention that this show is brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at U-Brake Wheel Fix. U-Brake Wheel Fix is the complete automotive wheel solution. Ever parked too close to the sidewalk curb? U-Brake Wheel Fix specializes in the repair of damaged wheels from bends, cracks, and curb rash. Or maybe your wheels are faded or peeling. You don't need to replace them, as U-Brake Wheel Fix can refinish them to like new. Offering complete refinish options through powder coating, machining, and polishing, U-Brake Wheel Fix is the answer to all of your wheel needs. And if you're just looking to give your ride a new look, U-Brake Wheel Fix also offers many car customizing options, such as new custom wheels and tires from your favorite brands, performance upgrades, window tinting, and suspension modifications. Located just south of Aventura, you can reach Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or online at ubrakewheelfix.com. They are really active on all social media platforms at U-Brake Wheel Fix, so shoot them a DM on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter and get an estimate in just minutes. So don't delay, go to U-Brake Wheel Fix and start customizing your ride to show off your Dolphins fandom today. And this show is also brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, one of each. It's up to you to decide. All you have to do is choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat. They give you free squares over there. Today happens to be Taco Tuesday, so expect some discounted promos to be taken advantage of. You also have Flex Friday specials where you can get get your money back if you lose, or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. So with offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you're any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, it's promo code 5, FIVE. Go to prizepicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with and get started winning today. All right, Ron. So you mentioned the kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge type of deal that Chris Grier could potentially pull with Connor Williams. But what I wanted to go ahead and just remind everybody is that we actually talked about this not too long ago, both of us, on this show. And what we had discussed, and I personally feel like this could be the direction that they go in, is that what if they decided to do the same thing that you're talking about, but it's not Connor Williams? I had actually talked about this on the previous show when I was doing it by myself just the other day, talking about how I think that if anybody would be willing to play ball that way, it would not be Connor Williams. It would actually be Christian Wilkins. Because of all the players on this team, nobody seems to be more team first. Nobody seems to just enjoy life in all of its facets more than a Christian Wilkins does. And of all the players, Christian Wilkins, who needs a new contract more than anybody on this team, he's the only one who has not given any idea of he's concerned about his contract. He's not saying that he's upset about the fact that he hasn't been given a new contract. He's just going with the flow. He's relaxed. He's enjoying himself, continuing to be his own little Christian Wilkins self, and just being the life of the party as always. Whereas the other two guys who are also in needs of new contracts, they have gone out of their way and said, I want you guys to pay me now. Connor Williams held out of all of mandatory minicamp, and presumably it's because he wants a long-term deal. Zach Sealer didn't show up at first either, and if I'm not mistaken, they're actually both represented by the same gentleman, Drew Rosenhaus, correct? So
yeah, they're both, but I didn't hear anything about Sealer not showing up.
Sealer did not show up. It was not at first. He didn't show up at first. He did eventually.
Are you talking about like OTAs, like voluntary or something?
No, it was minicamp. Sealer didn't show up.
I don't think he missed any practices.
He wasn't. I think it was either. Maybe it was only OTAs, but I know for a fact that Sealer did not show up at first. He did eventually pop in, but Connor Williams stayed out the entire time. So, of all the players that need a new contract, the only one who I can actually picture staying with this whole thing would be Christian Wilkins. He would be the one who would say, okay, Chris, you've done right by me in my mind all this time. I'll go ahead and I'll wait for the end of the season, and then you guys can give me my reward after the fact because I want to chase a Super Bowl. Connor Williams and Zach Sealer are showing that they're more concerned about their paycheck, which I understand. I'm not taking it away from them. Everybody has to get paid in this league. But if anybody is going to play ball, so to speak, I think it would be Christian Wilkins, not Connor Williams.
Well, I know we're getting a little off subject here because now we're talking about Sealer and Wilkins.
No,
I think the Wilkins deal, like they already have plans for that. That's part of the $13 million they have now. It's they're going to get that done before we start training camp. Wilkins will have a deal. He's not going to need to. They're not going to need to do any quote unquote special treatment or special situation there. Or I promise you, I'll do this now. No, that's not how that's going to work with his contract. He's a first rounder. All his peers or his defensive tackle peers in that round for that year have already gotten their extensions. He's the last one not to. They're going to get it done. I'm sure they're working out the details. I would expect any day that happens. As far as Sealer's going to show up. I don't know that they're going to give him any kind of an extension yet. I just don't know if they're going to be able to fit him in. I have a feeling he's just going to be a little expensive, and they're going to end up having to move on from him the year after, possibly. We'll see. As far as Connor Williams goes, yeah, I think that's where they could make a deal like that and say, okay, we'll do a little this for you this time, and then next year we'll do that, like whatever it was they did with X before. Because he knows he's really important with this line. We got to have Connor Williams. We can't. We're already struggling to fill two spots. Plus, a lot of our depth is questionable for sure. We can't then go trying to figure out what the heck we're going to do at center. Just hugely important for McDaniel's offense. I mean, center's important for all offenses. I don't want to say that it's more important for McDaniel than others, but we know with the struggles we've had on the line, having Connor Williams there as a solid center, got the snapping issues mostly taken care of as well. And obviously beyond the few snapping issues he had, he was really good. I mean, he was fantastic. this past year. They're going to get it worked out and figured out. He just may not get the full deal he wants. We'll see. I just think that I'm not concerned about it, honestly. I'm not. I don't see him holding out. They'll figure out something.
Well, I personally feel like that, once again, we've talked about this before. We know for a fact that Mike McDaniel does not, let's say, value highly talented and touted offensive linemen as much as we feel like he should.
I mean, I want to stop you there before you keep going. This team spent some pretty good money on a couple linemen last year.
Yeah, Armstead and Connor Williams. But
exactly. I would disagree that they don't tout it highly or value it. I should say. I would say that they have
higher priorities.
Yes, in their mind, there's been other priorities, and they just couldn't see themselves spending big on every single spot in the line. They would rather go elsewhere with the money and spend it on skill positions and spend it in the defensive backfield and all the things that they did and traded for Chubb and all the things that they've done. I think that they see more value in a lot of those roles over trying to have 5 Pro Bowl linemen, so to speak. And I know what we're talking about is we're not asking for 5 Pro Bowl linemen because we're far from it. We would just like some competent play out of right tackle and left guard. I get that's what you're thinking when I say 5 Pro Bowl linemen. No, that's not what we're talking about here. But I think obviously they prioritize those other positions, and those other positions are important. I know we all want 22 guys that are just beyond studly. I get that we all want that. Isn't realistic. Most teams, almost / no teams have that. Even the Eagles have a spot or two that's a little questionable, right? But in different spots, not on their offensive line. It's just you gotta make a decision, and that's where they've decided to make the decision. Now the question is, right? And before we started the show, we kind of talked about, is the offensive line so bad, right? With the holes it has and the depth issues and Armstead being hurt a lot, et cetera, et cetera. Connor Williams even though I don't think would hold out, et cetera, et cetera. Is it bad enough that it could truly stop us from winning a Super Bowl or getting to the Super Bowl, even though we have so much immense talent everywhere else? My personal opinion is no. If the one thing that would stop us from getting to the Super Bowl is Tua gets hurt and misses extended time, for me, that's what would stop us from getting the Super Bowl. I don't think that the right tackle or left guard spot is going to cause that to happen or not to happen. Well, in my personal opinion, I know a lot of people disagree with me. In my personal opinion, I think that's not going to stop us from getting to the Super Bowl. I think the talent is good enough elsewhere that as long as Tua is healthy and on the field, we're good.
But I guess that's the concern, though, isn't it? Is that it goes hand in hand. Tua's health is directly related to how well the offensive line is able to
Except it wasn't last year. None of those injuries were anything related to the offensive line. 2 years ago, yes, when Jesse Davis allowed Tua to get killed and get his ribs broken against Buffalo, week 2 in Miami, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was in Buffalo. I forget whether it was in Buffalo or Miami, week 2 in 2021. Jesse Davis allowed Tua to get crushed. In that case, yes, it was an issue. Last year, none of those injuries and none of those concussions had anything to do with the offensive line whatsoever. And honestly, a lot of our running issues had nothing to do with the offensive line either. It was a lack of willingness to run more than anything. So I think, and we've got a new offensive line coach, and I kind of see where they're going. I think the Dolphins think the same thing that I'm just said. They're thinking, well, it's not really a matter of keeping Tua quote unquote healthy, because those pass plays, man, he gets rid of that ball faster than almost anybody in the league. Number one. And it's a matter of Tua keeping himself healthy, really, more than anything, is what I think it is there.
Well, but that's what I'm saying, though, because just because this past year the offensive line didn't have anything to do with Tua getting hurt, that doesn't mean that in the future it's not going to have anything to do with Tua getting hurt. And I know we've done this whole talk about he's taking jujitsu and he's learning how to fall properly and he's going to make it so that he doesn't hit his head. Some things are,
and maybe he's going to wear the new helmet. We don't know yet. He promised.
Ron, I'm not holding my breath on that. I really don't.
He hasn't promised. They got a new design that some of the quarterbacks are checking out that he tried.
I
don't know that he likes it enough that he's going to wear it. I'm not sure.
I think he doesn't want to mess with his mojo and make him feel uncomfortable, because then he's going to be like, I don't like this helmet. It doesn't feel right. I don't feel like I'm in my groove. But that's besides the point. What I wanted to bring up, though, is that, like, you're very right about the issues not having anything to do with the offensive line when it comes to running the football. I talked about this in the previous show. Ron, did you know that according to Pro Football Focus, which I know we take all of that with a grain of salt, but it is
especially with offensive line grades, because they don't always know what the assignment was. But
this is true. But with that being said, did you know that the Miami Dolphins were a top 10 run blocking team?
I'm not surprised. And a lot of that is probably scheme driven and design as well, because they do have a good run design offensive guy in McDaniel, even though he didn't show near that stuff last year. And I want to point out something that I think CK said this, and I don't know if he said it in OnlyFins or if he said it on a podcast. I can't remember. I'm not even 100% sure it was him, but I think it was. He had mentioned something, and if I can try and get this right, that yes, McDaniel was a running game guru, but only because he realized he felt left out of all these people. Kind of had these specializations, and they specialized in this, that, or the other, and he had nothing. Yes. And so he decided to go after that and just become a master of the run game. However, maybe in his heart of heart, that's not what he dreamed about when he dreamed about being a head coach. He dreamed about having a quarterback accurate like Tua and a pair of guys like Waddle and Tyreek Hill to throw it to. And lo and behold, year one as a head coach, there it was given to him, like the perfect situation. And he just can't. What does it say? A zebra never changes its stripes. That maybe this coming year, it's going to be the same story. He's just not going to really commit to the run because he just can't help it. He's got these awesome toys to throw the ball to, and that's what he's going to do, even though I imagine there's going to be different variations on it. I mean, we're going to see on that, but it doesn't surprise me because the guy knows how to coach a run game, that's for sure. I hope to see it be even better under Coach Barry. Hopefully we'll see. And I definitely hope that the pass blocking will be better, because that was still really bad last year. Really bad.
For what it's worth, Pro Football Focus has us in the bottom 5 when it comes to pass blocking.
Yeah, that would be accurate. I mean, we all saw all. I mean, anybody listening to this show probably saw all 18 games last season. I think we could safely say that the Dolphins were in the bottom 5, 3, 1 of pass blocking last year. That's not a surprise.
Well, apparently the Titans were the worst. So take that what you will.
Ooh, gosh, man, yeesh. That's I mean, I like RT. You know me, I've been a pro RT guy, but that is a bad combination. I'm not only a bad combination, but probably something that Tannehill was used to, being from Miami. Man, that guy has zero pocket presence. I like him, I really do, but zero pocket presence. Tua has really good pocket presence. Who was
31st? You know who was 31st in pass blocking?
Who was 31st in pass blocking?
Right above the worst, which is the Titans.
I gotta think of it. The Jets?
No, but you're close.
The Pats?
Nope.
The Bills?
Nope.
Okay, I don't know then who.
The Jets were 30th. That's why I say you were close.
Oh, okay. I don't know who was 31st.
Cincinnati.
Oh, they're still having their struggles, but they are trying. They're the same thing. They've tried to make their O-line better, but they haven't like gone all out and said, okay, screw this, 5 new linemen. I mean, they haven't done that either. They're just trying to slowly improve it, but they haven't committed all resources all in to that, because honestly, they've still been a really good team and a really good offense with the linemen they have. I mean, they went to the Super Bowl and Burrow was getting sacked like 7 or 8 times a game, and they went to the Super Bowl, man. Like, they had a chance to win the Super Bowl. So
they just invested in Jamar Chase, and
yeah, exactly. It's the same concept. I'm telling you, they're like, you know what? What wins games? Offensive line play, yeah. But see, the Eagles went out and invested in these guys too. They went and they drafted Smith, and they traded for why did I just totally drew a blank on a Brown, right? On AJ Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And they had done such a good job of drafting their offense. Last year, 10 out of 11 guys on their offense were drafted. The only guy who wasn't was AJ Brown. Everybody else they had drafted. So they'd done such a good job of drafting. They didn't have to go out and go nuts trying to find linemen. They had done their job in the draft to keep, a good line. But these teams like us and Cincinnati, apparently, who really don't know crap from Shinola. I'll keep it clean for your show, Lewis.
Thank you.
About drafting O-line, they've had to kind of make do, and the make do hasn't always worked. Didn't work last year for Cincinnati and Collins, right? They bring in. I have it right? They brought in Collins, and he wasn't any good, and then he got hurt. And if I recall correctly, I'm not a Cincinnati Bengals expert, but they've had their struggles too. But they're still a really good team, and I don't see everybody jumping on the bandwagon saying Cincinnati can't win. They suck because their offensive line. Like, I don't see people saying that. I'll bet you their own fans are crying about it because it's the one weakness. It's like glaring. That's like, why don't you guys do something about it? Because it's just not always that easy, especially this past offseason. The free agent market to try and fill offensive line holes was terrible. It was much better the year before. It was terrible this past free agent period. There was just, from the moment the bell rang to start free agency, there was just almost nothing worth it. And the few that were you had to pay so much, we just couldn't do it.
That was just basically a Mike McGlinchey.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was much better the year before as far as selection. I mean, clearly because we grabbed a couple guys.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully those couple of guys will show up and get the job done that we need them to get done. We're going to go ahead and call it here, though. Any final thoughts before we call it a night?
Yeah, just want to reiterate, I don't think that the Dolphins' offensive line woes are going to be what would keep this team from getting to the Super Bowl. I don't think that when it's all said and done, if we don't get to the Super Bowl, I don't think we're going to point to the offensive line sucked and that's why. I don't think that would end up being the reason.
I mean, before we go, let's put it this way. Let's say Tua does stay healthy all year and we still don't get it done. What would be the reason?
The defense doesn't work out with Fangio.
It's
McDaniel doesn't run the ball enough, or still struggles in some of these game situations with time and getting the play call in, things like that. Those to me are bigger concerns for me than the offensive line. The offensive line is a concern for me. I wish it was better at right tackle and left guard. I wish the depth was better. I'm not saying we have a good offensive line and we're set. I'm just saying I'm not as worried about it. I'm more concerned about a few other things above the offensive line.
That's fair. I think that's a lot more likely than it would be that Vic Fangio's defense doesn't work out. I'm
not saying that it won't, but it's a complete unknown.
Yeah,
I
understand.
We have seen the offense hum game after game after game after game after game with the offensive line that we're likely going to be putting out there week one. We have no idea how this defense is going to do under Fangio. Like, we don't have a clue like what that's actually going to look like. We know we have a talented DC that's supposed to be one of the best in the biz, and we know we have a supremely talented and deep defense that, and I'm not just saying that as a Dolphins fan, I'm saying that national media, national pundits are saying that defense is one of the best and one of the deepest as far as talent goes in the league. But will it all match or mix correctly? I have no idea.
Yeah. So let's just put it this way, Ron. If Vic Fangio's defense does not work out for whatever reason at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and say that this Dolphins team is snake bit, and we're not allowed to have one thing we're only allowed to have one thing be good every single year. We can't have both anymore.
Yeah, I get you. No, I would feel the same. I would feel the same way. I really think it's going to all work out, but there may be a little bit of growing pains getting there. I don't know that week one, minute one, that defense is going to look like it'll look week 8 or 10. I think it's going to take a little bit of time.
Probably. All right, folks, let's go ahead and call it here. Thank you for listening. If you haven't already done so, go check out U Brake Wheel Fix. They are the complete automotive wheel solution. They can help you out if you need your wheels fixed, if you need them polished, or if you just want to give your ride a new upgrade, like a performance upgrade, or if you want to make your car bounce, they can probably help you with that too, with suspension modifications. So reach out to Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112, or go online to ubrakewheelfix.com and get an estimate in just a few minutes. And of course, at prizepicks.com, today is Taco Tuesday, so watch out for those discounted props. Once again, all you have to do is just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less in their projected stat. Use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your deposit when you sign up using that promo code. That's going to be it. Ron, thank you for joining me once again. We'll see you later tonight for Pulse of Fins Nation, where we have a very fun idea that if you haven't already seen the preview on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel, I guarantee you've got something interesting in store. All right.